Bella Vista Community Television presents Bella Vista and Beyond. Today our host is Nancy Noyes, and we will be talking about the Peel Museum.
One of the finest gems in Northwest Arkansas has to be the Peel Museum in Bentonville. I'm pleased you're watching Bella Vista and Beyond. I'm Nancy Noyes, and you're in for a treat. Kelsey Atwood, as museum manager, knows a lot about this historic treasure. I'm thrilled to introduce her and to tell you a lot about this historic treasure. Welcome to the show, Kelsey.
Thank you, Nancy. Wonderful to be here.
We have some wonderful footage of the museum that we will show you in a little while, but first let's talk about you. Kelsey, where are you originally from?
I am originally from Northwest Arkansas, born and raised, and I've recently returned to the area to take a position at the Peel Museum and Botanical Garden.
What brought you to that position?
Well, I have a really strong love of museums and love how they preserve and maintain our treasures in our community, the world, and beyond, and also function as educational resources for folks.
I understand you have a background in museum work. Where did you go to college?
I do. So my undergraduate degree is from Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas, and that's in anthropology and Spanish. Really always been interested in cultures and how people live their lives. And then my graduate background is in museum studies from George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Very impressive. What did you learn that particularly you can use at your museum position here in Bentonville?
I think particularly how to handle care for objects has been the most essential part of my work. Everything that we have in the museum, we want to keep around forever so that continuing generations can love and enjoy it. So historic preservation and maintaining our objects is really essential to our work.
I can see that. What is the most interesting aspect of your job?
I think the most interesting aspect for me is getting to share the history of Northwest Arkansas with people here who live locally, but also beyond who are in town to visit. So I really like being able to share kind of the background and how Bentonville came to be.
Exactly. That's important, I think. Well, I know that the museum relies heavily on volunteers. How can someone become a part of the Peel Museum as a docent or a volunteer?
Absolutely. Our volunteers are such an important part of our work. Primarily, they serve as docents who lead tours of the museum. So if you have a love of history, a love of education, definitely invite you to reach out. You can find out more information on our website, and I believe we'll discuss that later in the show, but very happy to have folks reach out and kind of spread the love of history and keep this place special.
Yes, it really is special. I understand that the Peel Museum was almost lost. Could you talk about that, please?
Yes, so of course the house has had a very long life. It's actually our house's birthday will be 150 in 2025. So throughout that long history, it's had many different owners. But in its more recent history, it was in a period of kind of a bad state, trees growing through it, in desperate need of historic preservation. So in the early 90s, the Walmart Corporation was looking for a location to build their store and their home office, and they settled on kind of a plot of land in downtown Bentonville. Of course, the house was on this land, but they didn't tear it down. That wasn't going to happen, so Walmart Stores Incorporated donated the house to the Peel House Foundation, which is now the Peel Compton Foundation, who manages the house today. So it was nearly lost, but thankfully a determined group of Bentonville citizens came together and saved the house and created the foundation that still saves it today.
Right. Well, can you explain who Compton is in terms of the Peel Compton Foundation?
Absolutely. So Compton refers to Dr. Neil Compton, who was a local Bentonville physician and also very passionate about conserving our environment. And so his house is a part of the Peel Compton group today, and it is the Compton Gardens and Arboretum, but we also operate 2 more sites in addition to Peel. We have the Kohler Mountain Bike Preserve and Osage Park, which has the Quiver Archery Range, if you visited that.
Really great. Well, let's take a look at the restored Peel Mansion, which is placed on the National Register of Historic Places by the United States Department of the Interior.
Great. So what we're seeing on our screen is a photograph of Congressman Samuel West Peel, and he's kind of the key figure in our story. The house was built in 1875 and is in the Italianate style, and it's a really great example of that architectural style. And Samuel Peel and his wife Mary Emmeline Peel lived in this house with their 9 children, 3 boys, 6 girls. So what we're seeing here in the foyer is the entrance into the house. And as I mentioned earlier, it was restored in the early 90s. And sampling and really an intensive approach was taken to restore the house with to as close as possible as we can make it today. Here's a photograph of Mary Emmeline Barry Peel, wife of Samuel Peel, in her parlor. And this was a very formal space in the house. In his work as a lawyer and as a politician, she was also critical in maintaining relationships with kind of influential families in the community. So a lot of that kind of informal work was doing in her parlor. Oh, here's a close-up of a very fun object. It is a salesman's sample. So it looks like a chair for a toddler, but it's actually a sample that a salesperson could bring with them to show retailers, to show prospective buyers, what the larger chair was actually going to look like. It's much easier to bring a miniature chair along with you when you're traveling long distances than a full set of furniture. All right, this next room is the study. And I mentioned Mr. Peel was a politician. He was also a lawyer and an agent for Native American tribes as well. This room has my favorite wallpaper in the house. It has kind of an agricultural wheat theme to it, which I find really interesting. Here's a photograph of Congressman Peel in his older days. Oh, and here's our dining room. So set out on the table, we have a few different patterns of china. We know from the family that the 2 most important to me right now is this pattern that Mr. Peel brought with him to Washington. You can see the beautiful P embellished on the plate. And the moss rose pattern was very important to Mrs. Peel. And we still have her teapot today, which you can see on the sideboard, a really beautiful piece. The challenging part about collecting historic objects are that people use them. So we're really lucky to have these original pieces from the family. I think next we're going to head upstairs to the family's private space in the home.
I know that the spindles are all original. Isn't that true?
All except 2 of them are original, which just really speaks to the craftsmanship of the house.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so here are photographs of Mr. and Mrs. Peel in their bedroom. And if you walk in this room today, it has a really vibrant blue color on the floor. That is the original color. It's been restored, been repainted, but we know from, again, that sampling that was the color of the house.
Oh.
And the mattress in this room is made of horsehair. It's a more hypoallergenic solution to other types of mattresses of the day. And the quilt on the bed was made by a family member as well, so it's very special to have.
Yes.
All right, and on the screen right now we see photographs of General Clayton Gilbert. He is an important figure in our story as well. Of course, with a house as large as the Peels, you need more folks than just the family to run and maintain it. And he was a valued employee of the family. And he served as a valet and as a cook, and was remembered in Mr. Peel's will, which shows the strength of that relationship. All right, and so now we are in the boys' room. Again, 3 boys. They do have quite a spread of ages, so really the middle and the youngest son would have spent the majority of their time in this room. And this is Bucky, one of my favorite objects. he's a rocking horse. And once upon a time, he had a beautiful horsehair mane and tail that it's kind of a good lesson in how to take care of objects. He's kind of been loved to pieces, but we're very grateful to have him on display. Right, and this is the girls' room. So again, 6 daughters. This would have been quite a noisy place. Not all of them lived in the house. Some of them were married and had their own families by the time the Peels built this house in 1875. But we have different spots displaying the history of the women in the Peel family and how the daughters grew up.
I'm very impressed by all of the beautiful quilts that are on display in the Peel Museum.
Yes. We have a very strong textile collection, so a lot of our wonderful quilts are on display.
And these are portraits of some of the daughters?
Yes, so that was Catherine Peel, who accompanied her father to Washington, D.C. To serve as his hostess and do some of that informal but critical work of politicking. And this is our workers' kitchen, originally not attached to the house, and it has the wood-burning stove that would have been a cooking fire. The other fireplaces in the house are charcoal. So you can see different types of work is happening in different spaces. And lots of kitchen implements in this room. Lots of interesting things to look at.
I noticed that the table settings are quite different and contrasting to the table settings in the dining room.
Yes, so this would have been both a place for people to live, but also a working zone. The dining room is for display, for the family, for doing hospitality. This was really a place for work.
Was that the original brick that we saw in the workers' kitchen?
Yes, I believe so. Some pieces may have been restored, but for the most part, yes. And originally the house was that brick covered, but now in the 1920s, stucco was added to help preserve the brick, which had begun to deteriorate.
Right. Well, why was that? Do you know why the brick had begun to deteriorate?
I believe it's because it was made too quickly. The quality wasn't quite there. Bentonville was experiencing a huge boom in building, which probably resonates to today. So the bricks weren't of as good of quality.
Oh, okay. Well,
for a house that's going to be around for 150 plus years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was an amazing tour of the facility. It is really good. And we're also planning to do another show late in May that features the beautiful Compton Gardens, which will be in full bloom at that time. We're glad the Peel Museum was saved so that visitors can see how some people lived in the 1800s. This is an important part of our history, don't you think?
Absolutely.
So the museum boasts some incredible artifacts. Where did the curator come up with all of these wonderful items that tell such a story?
Yeah, so the majority of our objects have been donated to us, but we also have some really great larger furniture pieces that have been on loan from other museums throughout the state.
So on a personal note, you mentioned one of your favorite artifacts. Do you have another?
Yeah, I think Bucky, the rocking horse, is certainly one of my favorites because I like, you can really see how people used him, how people lived with him, and that he was special and important. But Mrs. Peel's teapot, I think, is also very special, being one of the original pieces from her collection.
Excellent. So what would you say is the best part about your job?
I think the best part of my job is every day is a little bit different, but the opportunity to share about Bentonville history and the history of the Peel family with Northwest Arkansas and beyond is my favorite part.
Why should everyone visit the Peel Museum?
You should visit the Peel Museum because we are a free educational resource, because it's interesting, and I think it's really amazing for folks to learn about where they're living. And also, just if you're coming to visit, or if you have family coming to visit, bring them along.
Oh, right. Well, do you have any special events that you'd like to make the public aware of?
We do. So coming up at the end of the month, we have spring break at Peel. So if you have any kiddos, please check us out on the website and learn more about that opportunity. But we also have our hanging basket sale coming up at Peel. That will be May 6th, 7th, or 5th, 6th, and 7th. You can purchase your hanging baskets online. It's a really great way to support the museum, but also have something beautiful to take home.
Exactly. Well, you know, for more information about the Peel Museum, please visit www.peelcompton.org. I'd like to thank Kelsey Atwood for joining us on Bella Vista and Beyond. If you haven't visited the Peel Museum in Bentonville, you're really missing out. It's free, and docents are at hand to give you a personalized guided tour. Join us on the second Wednesday of each month for another exciting edition of Bella Vista and Beyond. I'm Nancy Noyes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Been a presentation of Bella Vista Community Television Association. Thank you for watching.